So this afternoon, we have some focused sessions. I'm pretty excited about all of them. I think the topics are really relevant and important. And what I want to talk with you all about today and ruminate with you and sort of envision what the future is going to hold. The topic for our next half hour together, 20 minutes together, is Adept in the cloud. And clearly it's in the cloud. So I'll just keep going. There are so many juicy ways to approach this topic. I was just talking with Randy and Norm, and I was thinking about different ways that I wanted to talk about Adept in the cloud, and I thought, and I heard Randy's discussion this morning. He said, our data center's in Midland, Texas. We're in Houston. We've got folks in Terneuzen. We've got folks in Chennai, and I thought, that's interesting. If our customers put their Adept servers and provisioned them in the cloud, hosted them on Rackspace, on Amazon Web Services, on Azure, what's the major difference really between that and the type of environment the Dow's running in? And here's the answer. Not that much. It's not that big a difference. In fact, it's almost exactly the same. Now, there are some differences, and I want to talk about those, but I want to give you that provocative little seed as we enter this discussion about Adept in the cloud. The big question is that I hear from a lot of people, and I'm asked regularly, should I deploy in the cloud? The answer is we can't make that decision for you. That domain, that's a business decision. It's a business/IT security decision. It's not one that we can make, but we can certainly discuss it with you, and we can make recommendations. I think we're here not to have the debate about, is my IP going to be secure? Am I going to get hacked? Valid questions. Love to have the discussion. But what I want to talk with you about is, what are we seeing? What are our customers doing? What are the trends? How is this emerging? That's the information I want to share with you today. And what I can tell you unequivocally is in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of increased interest. It's absolutely true to say that today, more of our customers host their server infrastructure on which they deploy Adept in the cloud than ever before. So again, AWS, Azure, Rackspace, the like, these are becoming more and more common. Not only from an interest standpoint, and we gauge interest not only by questions, but customers actually asking us to propose solutions, right? So regularly we have customers ask us, will you provide us a hosted solution? Basically turnkey that we can begin using, with our data. So we've quoted those more in the past couple of years than we ever have prior. The other thing that we're seeing is that learning about what it means to host and truly understanding what the risks are and what the rewards can be trumps concerns. It outweighs the concerns about security. Consider this. And one of our speakers brought it up before, perhaps Randy again, I forget exactly who. What we hear about are the big data breaches, right? Point of fact, half of us in the room were affected in some way, shape, or form by the Equifax breach. We know that. We don't know if it was us necessarily, but we know that 1 out of every 2 of us was affected. What we don't hear about so much is the fact, say that Amazon Web Services, there's a segment of cloud-based computing space that is now DoD Security Regulation Guide Level 5 certified, hosted on Amazon. That's a big deal. That's confidential information that the DoD has said the cloud platform is safe for that data. Okay? So we hear about the big bombastious things, the kind of really amateurish mistakes that shouldn't have happened. That's how the Equifax leak happened. That was really just a rookie oversight. Should not have happened. It does, and we're all human, right? But the bottom line is, it's all true. In the end of the day, we have to assess risk, and we have to make a good business decision which way we're going to go. But understanding and learning can help you balance the scale of concern or fear about the cloud. Today, like I said, the provocative question is, what's so different from deploying on rack space in a segment of my wide area network versus what Dow has done with a data center in Midland, Texas? Not much. There's really not much different. So common concerns are obviously data security. Am I going to get hacked? Let's be completely blunt with one another and agree that the internet is not a secure place. It's the wild, wild west, right? And there are varying degrees of wide open doors, internet doors wide open, and all the way to tightly, tightly secure. Hackers tend to leverage those who have not been vigilant about security, right? I'm not aware of Amazon ever having been hacked, ever. I'm not, it's possible. I'm not aware of it, ever. That's impressive. That is a massive platform that hosts many other incredible businesses. Netflix is fully hosted, as you may know, on Amazon Web Services, and the list goes on and on and on. So, and yet, you have to be concerned about data security. In fact, I would say security starts with a good, healthy dose of fear, right? Got to be vigilant. It's the wild, wild west. IP, we see this regularly. We all work very hard, our businesses work very hard to cultivate and establish our unique identity in the business world, and that unique special sauce that we offer one another, right? And other businesses. We need to be concerned about that. Those are the company jewels, so to speak. So again, we have to be concerned, but again, let's put it on the scale. How concerned do we need to be? We need to be more secure than concerned, I would submit, in this day and age. There's also a very real concern, I think, about, am I in control of my data? Okay, Todd, I accept your premise that hosting our Adept solution in the cloud may be a good idea. So I'm open to that, and I'm open to, in fact, even you folks helping us manage that. Maybe you want us to manage the virtual servers. Perhaps you want us to help you administer Adept in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, the data that's there is still your company's data, right? So am I in control? And we feel like when I can see the server, or most of us can't see the servers, let's be honest, right? We're looking through the binoculars, right? Or we're looking at the door, the window through the door to the door of the server room, like in our office. I think I've seen them once or twice since I've been in the office. And yet, we're comforted by that. So, those are some of the concerns, and I think perhaps in the questions and answers you'll raise some more, and we can talk about those. Let's talk about some of the potential benefits of deploying in this fashion. You can add new locations quickly and easily. Putting the data in a centrally located area can be tremendous for overall system performance. It can also be challenging for overall system performance. We've had some really interesting experiences recently between connectivity between the US and Europe, something I would never really expect. There seem to be certain countries in Europe where general availability to bandwidth is either, I'd say it's either not readily available or it must be incredibly expensive because bandwidth availability in certain countries has been low, latencies have been a little on the high side. So it's really interesting where your data center is, where the servers reside in the overall grand scheme of things makes a big difference. And with regard to Adept, and we should talk about this as you ponder whether hosting makes sense to you or not. Where the database is in relation to users makes a big difference. Replication has transformed the ability for our customers to collaborate across 6 continents, as you heard Martha say yesterday. However, there are still some things that we need to be aware of as we work together potentially toward hosting in the cloud or hosting over the wide area network. These are things that we really, really have to talk about. It's really super easy to create and configure redundancy in a hosted environment. And I'm gonna leave you there as a cliffhanger. In the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more why. And here's exactly why. Server elasticity in the cloud is a jaw dropper. And let me tell you exactly what I mean by that. When you provision a cloud, when you provision a server in the cloud, you're presented with a console in a browser. And it's like, if you're a geek like us, or many of us, it's like being a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh, gee, I don't know, 12, 16, 24 cores? Sure. 32 gigs of RAM, that's, I don't know, that's, should I? I don't know. How about 64? They're all available from a drop-down menu. And as soon as you hit OK, the little mice and gears start whirring in the background. You can almost hear it as a rustle in the wind out the window. And 6 or 7 minutes later, your system is provisioned. 6 or 7 minutes later, you have a brand new high-performance kick-butt server for your Adept implementation. We love it when you do that, right? It's also easy to take that machine and then clone it, right? So redundancy, failover, making backups, making replica, super, super easy. So the elasticity is something that you really want to think about. You can do the same thing with disk space. You can do the same thing with bandwidth in and out. Can I have your permission to share the timeline of provisioning servers at Dow? Is that okay? So I was talking with Randy before, and they dabbled in setting things up in the cloud. He says it takes a week to get a box at Dow, and it takes 7 months to get it provisioned and racked in the data center. 7 months, right? Some of us may have similar time frames. Some of us may have less than 7 months, but a long time. 6 minutes is negligible, right? Very, very quick and easy. And the elasticity is jaw-dropping. Think about what the elasticity means. You provision a server today. You double in size a year from now. You open up your browser, and in the server console, you tweak your CPUs, your hard drive space, and your cycles up. You click OK. You're immediately resized for your new organization. That's pretty stunning. Scalability is another thing to consider. The Amazon server farms, plural, they operate at a scale that is staggering to ponder. It's staggering. The ability for that infrastructure to scale for intents and purposes of what the challenges that we're trying to solve in this room, maybe except for some of the things that the guys at your shop are doing, Dave, splitting atoms and wormholes and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not that, but for tracking and managing documents, it's essentially limitless, absolutely positively limitless. They can be maintained quickly and easily without disruption, and you can change and provision and add more across the world quickly and easily. Another thing to consider when it comes to provisioning infrastructure in the cloud is the cost model. And some interesting tidbits. Apparently there have been, in our customer base, Norm was just saying there are major decisions afoot about moving from traditional premise-based infrastructure to cloud-based infrastructure, where possible, where feasible, where it makes sense and it's secure. It's cheaper in the long run. In the end of the day, if you do the math, in many cases, not all, in many cases, it's less expensive. It also moves from your company's investment moves from a monolithic capital investment to a smaller, identifiable, forecastable operating expense, right? So moving from CapEx to OpEx can be really attractive to folks in the back office. It moves that big upfront cost to pay over time. And let's face it, the reality of hosting infrastructure in the cloud is that it has gotten more affordable over the years, not less. That's good for us as consumers, collectively. And 5 years from now, or 7 years from now, when you're looking at that gorgeous thoroughbred of a server you bought 7 years ago, and you're scratching, your IT department is scratching its head saying, how can I even get this now recycled in a responsible way? In the cloud, I'm not saying that there's not hardware powering the cloud, but mind you, if you had provisioned that in the cloud, again, you'd be going back to your web browser and maybe tweaking the CPU, the RAM, and the hard drive space at that point, instead of looking at an investment that you'd paid a lot for in the beginning that's now worth essentially pennies on the dollar. And amazingly, you can turn it off. Okay? You can spin it up and spin it down. And some of the provocative models that I want you to consider with regarding to hosting an environment in the cloud, I think lend itself well to turning it on and off quickly and easily. All right. Let's talk about some of the ways of deploying. This is a great approach to thinking about together different ways that this could be done. So one very realistic model, and not an uncommon model, would be a hybrid method. So we're going to put, let's say we put the database in the cloud, we put the Adept server in the cloud, we have a hub vault in the cloud, right? And clients will run locally on a workstation. Where we put in that model, we'd put the Adept web server in the cloud as well. And we'll have satellite vaults spread out across different geographical locations, right? Again, as I talk about this, and the idea it kind of becomes normal. That's exactly the architecture over the intranet or wide area network that many of you currently have today. And let's move. One thing I do want to say on this idea of where we put data. Let's talk about a hybrid deployment method. It's also perfectly feasible. Let's say, for instance, that your company is really, really concerned about intellectual property, does not want drawings and specs and those types of things outside the premise-based firewall. Would it still be possible to host some of your Adept infrastructure in the cloud? The answer is a resounding yes. You positively could do that. It makes complete sense to put an Adept server, a database server, a web server on a virtual box in the cloud and have the vault server locally. Why not? It's very common to distribute Adept components across multiple servers today. Perfectly feasible configuration, right? So one of the great things about this approach is that it can be so incredibly flexible. We talked about the different ways, and this is just an example. The file hub, the Adept server components in orange are hosted on the cloud. The clients access them. The file store, the main hub, is here locally on my local area network. Perfectly delightful method of deploying. Here's another option. Really just super leverage the replication capabilities in Adept. So perhaps you deploy on-premise, completely on-premise, and either your hub server is in the cloud or a satellite is in the cloud. Why would we do that? Any number of reasons. You could put your hub in the cloud if people in your main site got good performance, if they had a good connectivity to the cloud-based server, and if that cloud-based server were also closer or had better bandwidth, better access to connectivity to your remote sites. Again, the permutations of this are almost limitless. So with that in mind, we'll probably stop talking about different configuration options and move on to some other considerations. Actually, while I'm here, I'll just press pause for a second. Anyone in the room currently have legit cloud-hosted infrastructure today? 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. Did you folks have it 2 years ago? No, none. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Jess, can I ask, how are you folks hosted today? Using Rackspace? How's your experience been? Yeah.
Especially in the Panhandle with all the hurricanes and everything, having
Oh
anything
my
stored
God.
locally is a risk, and that's what we've been doing for our other data management prior to Adept. And so, yeah, our IT department was really excited to be able to get things hosted externally and using Rackspace. I think Rackspace has our data in Texas and in Chicago. So, yeah, it's great. And I think that we even have additionally, we have backups locally as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Any questions for Jess while we have her on the horn? Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. I thought I remembered somewhere in the back that you folks may have done that. She brings up another great point, and we're kind of going to steal just an ounce of thunder from Eric's presentation coming up next. Imagine we have had this has been an unprecedented hurricane season, right? I think that's true, or certainly within 100 years or more. And with what's going on the West Coast with fires and whatnot, to have the redundancy, to have the ability to quickly get access to data, regardless of what's going on in the world or where you are geographically, it's a massive benefit. One of the things that you'll consider when you weigh the option of deploying your Adept solution in the cloud or not is how you're going to manage it. Now, it's true to say, I think if I'm wrong, just shake your head. In Eastern Shipbuilding's case, their IT department provisioned the servers in Rackspace. They manage them as if they were, well, they are on their network. Essentially, they've created a private cloud. And they are completely managing their Adept implementation and the resources internally. That's very common. That's what we do with our cloud services, right? We provision them, we manage them. That's what others do as well. And there's a tremendous benefit to that. I think a lot of IT folks love it, and I think more and more are on the train, right? It's so quick and easy to provision resources and to adjust and manage to really optimize optimal experience for users. There's another option, however, and that would be you would come to us and you'd say, we'd like you to provide us a turnkey solution. So spin us up some servers, spin us up some architecture, install Adept, help us go through the implementation planning and design. Let's design a system together that really makes our business sing. And help us with your Adept administration. And while you're at it, if you could help us with some IT management of the, basic stuff, make sure the OS is updated, make sure patches are applied, et cetera, et cetera. Those types of things, I was talking with my colleague, Mark Mahovich, recently. This is my early warning to you, Mark, that I'm going to lob this over to you real soon. Unlike unlike what Scott did. No, we won't go there. So I was talking with Mark, and he and his team have worked on a program to offer a turnkey hosted solution for our customers. I have to tell you, I'm really impressed with what they've put together. So out of the gate, the offering has there's a scaffold in place to create a solution for our customers. Out of the gate, it takes into account on-demand support, on-demand Adept administrator tasks. It takes into account quarterly tasks. It takes into account semi-regular IT checkups to make sure everything is healthy, operating, and patches are applied. And as I was talking to him about this, I got really excited about re-energized about the opportunity to help our customers get up and running quickly and easily by providing this level of solution. And he was quick to remind me that the program that they had devised was a scaffold, and it was devised originally with flexibility in mind. So with that idea, I wanted to ask you, Mark, if you had an opportunity to share with folks what your thinking was as you put this in place, what would you want to share? You know, hypothetically speaking, if you had some words to say about it.
Well, yeah, thank you, Todd. Funny you should ask. So maybe I'm dating myself here a little bit, but does anybody remember Internet in a Box?
I do.
Anybody remember that? Couple people. So Internet in a Box was, Bonnie's shaking her head at me. Internet in a Box was this, I forget who even offered it. It might have been AOL or something. The early days, like I'm going back 10, 15 years, you could purchase this, and in that box was everything you needed to get connected to the internet, right? So I think there might have been a modem in there and software and so forth, and you know how to set it all up. So that's actually what I had in mind when I thought about this, because it's like, what if we had Adept in a box, right? And it was a way to get Adept deployed, get it installed, get it set up for you, for your company, very, very easy, but also have someone manage it for you as you continue to use it. So that's when I came up with this about, well, what if we had people at Synergist that could be your Adept administrators, right? For you, for your Adept at your company. So the offering that Todd's talking about is basically that. It's us managing Adept for you. So you do not have to have somebody on staff that's the Adept administrator, and that's their job to do all that work. Let us do that for you. So when I was thinking about that, and then with the whole hosting thing, it's like, well, man, maybe we could just have Adept in a box, right? And that's the thing. It was designed. It's got this framework, kind of as a starting point. And as it says up there, there's on-demand and scheduled services and things, and this is done across a year. It's a yearly contract that we can offer you guys. But the thing about it is, it's just a starting point. It was designed to be very, very flexible. So if we, if you come back and you say, Mark, I'm really interested in this, and I show you, okay, this is everything that we're going to do, and you're like, yeah, I don't think I need you to do that and that for me, but you know what? If you could do this for me for that would really help me out. And that's what this program is designed to have, is that flexibility. So it can be part of a hosted system where we manage the hosting for you, or not. It could be, either you could do the hosting yourself, or it could even be with your on-premise Adept that it is today, and you just want these admin services on top of it. So just thank you for the opportunity to talk about that, because I think it's a really powerful offering that could help you guys out, quite a bit with, how you manage Adept today. And again, coupled with the hosting, it's like not only do you not need that person, but the hardware, the IT services to maintain that hardware on-premise is all not necessary anymore, right? So
can I ask you 2 or 3 questions before we wrap? And
sure.
You indicate whether this would be possible given the framework that you've created?
Sure.
So I'm an existing customer. I've got a premise-based Adept today, and I'd like to move it to the cloud. Mm-hmm. And I want our internal people to be able to manage that. But I want Synergist to provide me infrastructure in the cloud, maybe do some light IT stuff. But our people will connect to it. Our people will manage it. Would that be possible with this framework?
Absolutely.
Okay. I have an existing platform today. I want to migrate it to the cloud. I'd like to host it myself, and I need Synergist for a few hours a month to help me with the administration, to help augment my staff.
Yeah, that absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other variation I can think of? You get the picture, don't you?
Anything in between.
Yeah, anything in between. Great. Thank you, Mark.
So listen, before you made
Yeah.
the mistake of giving me the mic.
No, that's fine. That's why I asked Jess. I knew she'd help me with the presentation. I knew you would. Go ahead.
So you had mentioned, Todd, you had mentioned a little bit earlier about the connection to Europe, basically across the ocean.
Mhm.
And we've had recent experiences. You know, we have more and more customers today that have offices across seas, right? And this whole idea of hosting, you know, across from United States to Europe and so forth. And there's a limitation there, and that's basically the pipe, right? The data across the ocean. It's got a limitation. So I came across something in a news feed a couple weeks ago that reminded me when you said this, and I found it. And I just want to share with you folks. Maybe you've already heard of it. But I'll just read the first real short paragraph. Microsoft, Facebook, and telecoms infrastructure company Telxius have announced the completion of the highest capacity subsea cable to ever cross the Atlantic Ocean. The cable is capable of transmitting 160 terabytes of data per second. Now think about that for a second. The internet connection that we have at Synergist is a 50 megabyte connection. Not a whole lot, right? You might, at home, you might have a faster connection. But the thing of it is it's fiber and it's dedicated to us, so it works really well. But think about that. 160 terabytes. So there's 1,000 megabytes in a gigabyte. There's 1,000 gigabytes in a terabyte. This is 160 terabytes per second of data that this cable can transfer. That's equivalent, they claim, to streaming 71 million HD videos at the same time. That's 16 million times faster than an average home internet connection, Microsoft claims. The cable will be operational by early 2018. Right? So that, if that's really what this is going to be, that opens up a whole nother realm of possibility of what we can do in terms of hosting.
Absolutely.
Just
You're
wanted
right.
to share that.
Thank you. I hot off the press. Thank you, Mark. So I'm stealing time from Eric. There's one last thing that seed that I want to plant with you folks. You've heard a couple of your colleague customers today encourage you, today and yesterday, encourage you to stand up a sandbox. I happen to think it's really important. There was a time in our history where nobody had an alternate sandbox to play in, right, for updates. Many, many, many of our customers do now. If you don't, you really should consider it, seriously. Think about putting your sandbox in a hosted infrastructure. Benefits are you can spin it up, test for a month, and let it lie dormant until the next time. So you pay for a month, and you stop paying until the next time you want to play. It's a fabulous use of that kind of turn-on, turn-off architecture, and it's super cost-effective. You can't do it any more cost-effectively than that way. So that's my final thought. I don't have time for questions today, but on this particular topic, I'll be back to talk about the roadmap later, or you can catch me in the hall. Thank you.